Oh, yeah. Gentlemen. Are we ready?
It's a couple minutes.
No, it's time. Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. I would like to call the March 11th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Ms. Whitten, would you take roll, please?
Supervisor Lewis,
Present.
Supervisor Day,
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel,
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
And Chair Ayers.
Yes, here. We will now have a prayer for the board, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you would like to join us, please stand.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, a humble and grateful board. We're humbled to live in a beautiful and vibrant community, and we're grateful for the opportunity to serve our wonderful citizens. We ask for your leadership, guidance, and direction with the decisions that we make. We ask that these decisions are respectful and beneficial to our community and will be bountiful and prosperous to our community as a whole. We ask these prayers in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizens' comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial in on one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling by telephone. As the board's representative on the Regional Tourism Board, I would like to add a resolution recognizing the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association on the occasion of its 100th anniversary to our agenda, which will be celebrated in Stanton on March 18th. This came to our attention after posting the agenda last week. Staff has provided board members with a copy of the resolution. Are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, we will go on to that resolution. Mr. Lewis, would you read that for us?
Yes, ma'am. A resolution to commemorate the centennial anniversary of the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association. Whereas for a century, the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association has promoted the Shenandoah Valley to travelers and tourists from other parts of Virginia, the United States, and worldwide. And whereas Shenandoah Valley Travel Association, the second destination marketing organization in the United States, was created in 1924 and has survived and thrived for 100 years. And whereas travel and tourism in the Shenandoah Valley has a 2.3 billion economic impact annually and is an important part of the economic development of the Shenandoah Valley. And whereas the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association has always been able to discern travel trends and to adapt and update as necessary. And whereas Shenandoah Valley Travel Association has been an important and continuing partner to local tourism efforts across the Shenandoah Valley. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors hereby commends the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association on its 100th anniversary and recognizes its importance to the travel and tourism industry in the Shenandoah Valley. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the Board of Supervisors of Rockbridge County prepare a copy of this resolution to be presented to the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association as an expression of recognition of this important milestone, adopted this 11th day of March, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Mr. Day, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Are there any other recognitions or presentations? Mr. Suter?
No, ma'am.
Citizens' comments. We will now welcome citizen comments. Please note that those wishing to speak about items advertised for public hearing can do so during that portion of the agenda scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There is a timer on the table for your convenience. Is there anyone signed up?
No, ma'am.
All right. Is there anyone online who has their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone that did not sign up and would like to speak now? All right. Move on to the approval of the February 26, 2024 minutes. You've been provided with 2 sets of minutes from February 26th. Are there any questions or comments on either set? And if not, is there a motion to approve the work session of February 26th?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Abstain.
And I vote yes. And now is there a motion to approve this set of regular meeting minutes? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. Consideration of the county appropriation resolution, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, before you is a resolution authorizing appropriations and the payment of bills for this period. This period amounts to $662,694.69. And additional appropriations total $12,245. Included in the packet is various reports, but briefly, our year-to-date revenues total $41,039,711. Year-to-date expenditures total $40,979,949, or a difference of $59,762. 67% of fiscal year 2024 has passed. Our year-to-date sales tax is $2,554,511, or 68%, right on track. Year-to-date meals tax continues to be exceeding estimates at $2,141,719, or 78%. And lodging tax is still behind at $1,050,294, or 57%. And also encloses that spreadsheet showing month-over-month comparisons to previous years.
All right. Having heard that, do you have any questions or comments? The resolution to a motion to approve the appropriation resolution.
So move.
Okay, Mr. McDaniel, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. Consideration of surplus resolution.
Yes, before you is a resolution to consider surplusing a light speed trailer from the sheriff's office. This was previously approved back in September, but since that time, the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Office has requested that item be donated to the Bath County Sheriff's Office.
Gentlemen, any questions?
I personally would rather not see it in either jurisdiction, but I move to approve.
You want to exempt Rockbridge County? Exempt?
I prefer to be.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Consideration of cigarette tax, stamp tax services agreement contract.
Yes, before you is a resolution for, we send out a request for proposals for cigarette tax stamps. Received 2 proposals. Meyer Cord Revenue Incorporated was the best proposal, and the Commissioner of Revenue further negotiated with them on prices and got a even better deal. And that's what it is. These are the stamps that actually go on the cigarette packs.
Questions? Concerns, comments? Not, can I have a motion to adopt the proposed resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? And the chair votes yes. Consideration of voice over internet protocol solutions contract. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, this has been a long time coming. We have solicited requests for proposals to provide voice over internet proposal countywide, not just for this building, but for fire and rescue and the sheriff's office and the jail and police services as well. We received around 20 proposals. The committee narrowed it down to 3. And fortunately, the committee recommended Virginia Technology as the best bid or proposal, excuse me. I want to apologize. The resolution, the agreement that was posted online, there is a change, and I provided a copy of that change to you. And that change, we have the term in that, which is initial 5-year term with renewals, and that was the only change that was
It's updated now.
So it is updated, and this is desperately needed as.
All right. Questions for Mr. Harrison? Everybody here with me? Questions? Any questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to adopt the proposed resolution for the service?
So moved.
Oops. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Move on to considerations of admissions tax amendment. Mr. Suter.
Yes, at your last meeting, I provided the board with a history of implementation of the admissions tax, which as of January 1 this year moved to a 10% tax with a $3 cap. And at the conclusion of subsequent discussion, the board asked the Finance Committee to further consider any amendments to the current code associated with the admissions tax and return to the board with a recommendation. So earlier this month, the Finance Committee discussed and has recommended the following changes to the ordinance. 2 changes. First, reduce the admissions tax to 6%, and second, remove the $3 cap. And our county attorney, welcome, John. John Dryden has drafted an ordinance to that effect. It's in your packet with the changes shown. Should the board wish to proceed, we would schedule a public hearing for the board's next regular meeting on March 25th. And at this point, you've got several options. You can maintain the status quo with a 10% admissions tax and a $3 cap. You could propose amending the admissions tax portion of the ordinance as recommended by the Finance Committee to a 6% tax and remove the $3 cap, or you could propose another variation of such. And again, if any change is proposed, you'd need to direct us as staff to advertise the proposed ordinance for public hearing.
All right. Gentlemen. Questions? How do we feel?
Well, I've done a little homework, and there's nobody on this side of the state that has a 10% admissions tax. The closest we have is Roanoke City with 5.5. There might be one out there, but I've yet to find any locality that has a cap on their admissions tax. And I think we need to move forward, reduce it to 6% and eliminate the cap.
That's what I said last time was the region, the rate of the percentage. I think that's as I've said, we need the funds to operate, to provide the services. And that seems to be, after the time we've had to review this, the few years, that seems to be a good spot for us to meet.
Mhm. All right.
So as part of the finance committee, that's why our recommendation was what it was, or what it is, I'd say.
All right.
The original plan was, over a 3-year period. And I'm assuming with this change, we will continue every year to look at it and determine what it needs to be. Yes.
Well, would we like to make that motion then to present this on our March, let's see,
25th.
25th meeting?
So move.
So the motion is to schedule a public hearing on this matter on
On the
March
25th,
25th.
yes.
Okay, Mr. Lyons has do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Appointments. Do not believe there are any appointments now. Monthly staff reports have been received by various departments. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Make a motion to accept as presented.
All right,
Second.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It is now 5:46. We will take a small recess and come back for public hearings at 6 PM. We will now begin our public hearings. Mr. Sladen?
Thank you. Staff has a brief presentation before we turn the floor over to the applicant. Tonight is a public hearing agenda item for the special exception for a 5 megawatt, that's AC power, solar facility in the agricultural and general use district. That's the A2 zoning district, and in the agricultural transitional AT district. The property under consideration is outlined in magenta. It's owned by Sylvia G. Moore and further identified as tax map number 40-A-1. The tract consists of 149.127 acres per tax records. In conjunction with the landowner, Volcano Energy LLC has made an application for a special exception permit to develop a 5 megawatt AC solar project. Of the approximately 150 acres, again, per tax records, approximately 20 acres consist of woodlands. The remaining 129 acres is in an agricultural use. Per the 2022 aerial photograph, the agricultural uses consist of approximately 21 acres of crop production, and the remainder of the agricultural use is in hay production. And there's a fenced-in area sort of runs parallel to Moore's Trail that's fenced in for livestock. Additionally, there are 2 agricultural buildings on the property, as well as an older, dilapidated, if you will, single-family dwelling and a single-wide manufactured home. Per the zoning in the area, the property is located in the agricultural general uses. That's the clear area here, where it's identified as A2. And the remaining property is in the agricultural transitional zoning district. And that's, of course, the pink area on the map here. The attached map displayed here shows the approximate location of the proposed fenced area in green. For the solar array, the proposed fence area is approximately 45 acres, with approximately 12 acres in the existing agricultural transitional zoning district. Per section 603.03-9 of the regulations, public utilities are used by special exception in the A2 zoning district. Per section 603B.03-14 of the regulations, public utilities are used by special exception in the AT zoning district. The pending special exception permit is to develop a 5 megawatt AC solar project as a public utility in the various districts. The proposed access to the site is off Moore's Trail, further identified as Route 794. On October 11th, 2023, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended denial of the special exception permit. On October 26, 2023, Volcano Energy LLC requested a deferment of being placed on the Board of Supervisors agenda and, of course, associated public hearing. The purpose of this request was to provide additional time to address the comments and concerns raised by the Planning Commission and county citizens and expanded community engagement efforts. Since October 11th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, Volcano Energy LLC has modified the development plans. Changes to the development plans include a reduction of the proposed fence area, increased landscaping, shifting of the proposed access road away from the Clark parcel that's further identified as 40-A-1A, and the Fitzgerald tract, which is further identified as 40-2-1. These changes were deemed not to be material changes. The complete list of modifications and additional information that was been provided by Volcano Energy LLC was included in the supplemental information in the board's March 11th, 2024 board's package. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Miss Alexander Walling, Assistant Vice President of Development with Innovatus Solar. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second and pull up her presentation. Give me a few. Yeah.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Alexandria Walling. I'm here on behalf of Volcano Energy. I am from the developer and the EPC construction contractor, Innovative Solar for Volcano Energy. With me tonight, I also have Sean Malo from Kimley Horn, our civil engineer partner. I also have Aspen Power, the owner of Volcano Energy. They're also an operations and maintenance and financial firm. And I also have our counsel, Ann Neal of Green Herlocker. Throughout the questions and presentation, I will refer to some of them for more expert testimony. All right. And thank you to Chris. That was a rather robust review of the application. So I will go through just a little bit more in detail on what we're proposing here. As you know, Volcano Energy is proposing a 5 megawatt AC solar facility. And that is Volcano Energy is the project LLC. It is currently owned by Aspen, who is the long-term owner. And I'd like to, again, really emphasize that they are also an operations and maintenance firm that does financing. So they work on these projects, holding on to those long-term. Additionally, as I said, I represent Innovative Solar, the developer, and we will be doing the construction on the project as well. So we're asking for the special exception permit. As we said, the approximate project area has been tightened since we previously spoke in front of the Planning Commission due to feedback that we've received from the community. It is now going to be approximately 63 acres. This particular setup allows us to only utilize the area currently in hay production. The remainder of the property, which we have spoke with the manager of the ownership, is intended to stay in agricultural uses for farmland. And that will also lead us to preserve the existing woodlands, which is between 19 and 20 acres. And it also allowed us to avoid the prime farmland. And the way that we were able to do this, we have performed a number of studies on the site. And then, sorry, give me 1 second.
Take your time.
In taking the site selection and the site layout, we first identified the interconnection feasibility. We are interconnecting to Dominion. The existing distribution line has capacity and it also has a load need. So we will be meeting those load demands. We've also taken into consideration a lot of information from the community to try to expand upon our site visibility. Again, bringing our project limits in to avoid that prime farmland and maintain the forested area. We have completed critical issues analysis. We've coordinated with Army Corps of Engineer doing wetland delineation. We have done soil studies, all of the things of that nature to confirm the viability of the area where we are proposing. So I just wanted to zoom in on the updated site layout for you. This is obviously a satellite image. Again, I'd like to highlight that the access road off of Moore's Trail has been moved since we presented in front of the Planning Commission, thanks to feedback from the community and some preliminary discussions with the Department of Transportation. This allows us to be further away from the neighbor and also provides a longer line of sight prior to turning into the site itself. We are also proposing, because that is also there's like a hill there. So the access road will kind of be on the top of that hill. And we're also going to add the landscape buffer along the actual access road. So you'll see that the access road goes further into the parcel, and that is a hill area up there. It does escalate a little bit. So it should help with some of the view shed as well. We've also supplemented this particular plan so that the landscape buffer now includes a double row of evergreen trees. We have reviewed the TCO guidelines and tried to suggest species that would be in line with that. So we will go into kind of further detail on that with some other views. this is a little bit easier to see. It's kind of hard to put the site plans on slides for you guys. So in the green area, you'll see again, we're proposing the double rows of trees throughout the entire limits where we're bordering against residents. We have proposed a 65-foot setback from Morris Trail, but as you can see with the access road, we're much more than 65 feet set off there. The standard setback around the entire property is 50 feet. However, any adjacent properties that include a residence, we've expanded that to 75 feet for the buffer area. So that leaves any solar arrays more than 200 feet from any residence and over 500 feet from the state highway. With this vegetation plan, we do plan to maintain any existing vegetation on site. So we will supplement those areas, but anywhere where there is not existing vegetation, we'll have the double row. We've also committed that the solar panels will not exceed the limits of 10 feet. And the ordinance, I think, calls for 15. I just wanted to highlight some of the planting features. One of the commitments that Innovatus makes as the construction partner is that we actually put pollinator habitats on the entire facility, not just in buffer areas. Now, that's not saying it's going to be beautiful flowers underneath the panels. It is going to be a native grass and certain plants that don't grow too high, but that do support pollinator habitats. So those tend to have longer root systems to help with the stabilization of the site. We've also included just kind of a zoom in on the rendering of the evergreen trees that we are proposing. And again, these have been reviewed against the TCO guidelines to make sure that we meet those standards. So I do need to highlight this change specifically in the packets that have been printed with the agenda. We realized there was a mistake. We accidentally sent previous renderings. We've updated these renderings because after our community meeting that we held on February 1st, we've adjusted the landscape buffer. Previously, we were going to come all the way directly to Great Road, where this is the view from the corner of the parcel at Great Road. But we have actually pushed that landscape buffer back closer to the panel area that we found with the elevation. That's going to help with the view shed. And it also kind of leaves a little bit more of the open area for the neighbors to still feel as if it's about closer to what they see now. This is the view from across North Lee Highway that is kind of the biggest section where there is an opening in the existing vegetation. So we have again proposed a double row of trees. We've also updated the fencing. We've removed barbed wire and we've included what people like to call more of an AG fencing. It's called square knot fencing, which does allow for small wildlife to be able to pass through as well. And it's a little bit nicer looking, to be honest. We've also done a number of studies since we presented in front of the planning committee, just to make sure that we are abiding by the intent of the TCO board and the comp plan. One of those was we did a line of sight study. We performed this. You can see the little X area down here. This is one of the residences that is closer to the open area where there is an existing vegetation. And as you can see from this line of sight, this would be as if they're standing at that back door. This would be the vegetative buffer that we are proposing. And with the terrain of the land right there, this would be the solar panels as their it's a tracker system as they go throughout the day. And so this does exemplify that the trees at maturity will definitely be a sufficient visual buffer. I'd like to move into the erosion and sediment control. Based off our community meeting, that was probably one of the biggest questions and concerns of the community. So I'm going to let Sean from Kimley Horns please speak on that matter.
Hello, good evening, board. My name is Sean Malloy. I work with Kimley Horn and Associates. We're a civil engineering and consulting firm. I personally have been doing solar in Virginia since 2017. We designed some of the original projects, and the design has evolved quite a bit for solar over that time frame. And so today I just want to go through a couple of talking points and also mention just a few key items of how we've adapted the regulations to apply and be applicable to solar, but also make it efficient in how we design and operate these projects. So first of all, we were committed to exceeding the requirements that DEQ and the county have. We'll talk about a couple of measures today of how we're going to do that as an example. But the first step is always erosion sediment control and protecting the perimeter of our project. So some of those devices we're going to use are diversion ditches and sediment basins, which you may be familiar with. Also silt fence, check dams, and other measures within the project area to help reduce the potential for sediment to leave the project. And again, we'll go through two options of how we're going to do that above those requirements during construction and operations. So the second part is stormwater. As the facility gets stabilized and transitions over to operations, we want to make sure that we're meeting all the stormwater requirements. So we're going to be looking at runoff flow from the project, how much water is actually leaving. We'll be reducing that. We're required to reduce it below what is there today. So we're going to be improving the flooding or any potential for flooding downstream of our project as we reduce the flow coming off the land today. Second element of the stormwater is the quality of the water. So through the requirements and through our project, we will be reducing the amount of phosphorus and other contaminants that are leaving our project. We're doing that through stabilization, through vegetation, like Ali mentioned, a lot of pollinators and natural vegetation. We'll also be maintaining a lot of the erosion sediment control measures like those ditches and basins to be operating throughout the full life of the project to ensure compliance with the code. We also may use the purchase of nutrient credits. We are going to preserve that forested land on the project as well. And there's a couple other swales and methods available through DEQ in the county that we may implement. Overall, all the erosion sediment control and stormwater measures will be reviewed and approved by the county staff, and we look forward to working through that process with them. In addition to just the standards and the things I've mentioned thus far, we have our project conditions, and as currently proposed, address even more items than this related to limiting of grading. That's been a big topic of how much earthwork are we going to move. We've limited the amount of the area within the panel layers we can even grade. We're also committing to preserving all the topsoil and really all the soil on the project. So we're not going to be importing and exporting soil from the project, especially that topsoil. So real quickly, I just want to go through two additional measures that are above and beyond the code for DEQ. The first one are ditches upstream of basins. And I guess as I introduce this, I really want to emphasize sometimes the standards of codes, especially the erosion control, can be protect the perimeter. And then a lot can happen within your project. Just don't let it leave the perimeter of the project. In solar, we've really been able to, because it's a low impervious development, we've been able to bring in devices and measurements into the project area to help limit the amount of chance for that sediment to even get to the perimeter of our project. So one of these measures is ditches upstream of our basin. So we're going to have ponds around the perimeter of the project. We're going to put ditches upstream of those. And what that does is it's an additional layer that's going to capture sediment before it even gets into the pond. It's going to protect those pond walls. If you've seen some ponds, sometimes you'll see the rills running down those steep slopes. This will help eliminate that as well. The second measure I wanted to go through, which is really specific to solar, is we're going to be designing engineered ditches that will flow the 10-year storm event through the middle of the arrays. So we're going to have natural low spots. Like I said, we're going to limit our grading. So we're going to use a lot of the natural topography that's out there. So where we have those low spots, we're going to be designing engineered ditches to ensure that as the different rain events happen, we'll be able to properly manage that water as it is traveled to the stormwater basins along the perimeter. So we're going to be going through engineered calculations to make sure those function properly during construction and operations. So that wraps up my part. I'll hand it back over to Ali, but if you have any other engineering questions, be glad to answer those at the end. Thank you.
Not much longer, guys. So I did want to then go into decommissioning. We have proposed a decommissioning plan. I did notice that the attachment that you guys have is the updated decommissioning plan, but we did not call it out in the updates letter. So that has been updated since it was reviewed by the Planning Commission. Based off of feedback, we understand that there are talks and consideration to raise your standards on those decommissioning plans. So we did make an effort to go ahead and include those in our decommissioning plan. So that does include that we will update the decommissioning bond and review every 5 years. It does still include the 2% inflation as a standard. And we did also add, we calculated salvage value. It has not been calculated into the decommissioning cost or reduced, but just for your general reference, which you guys received that in the packet. If you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer those. Then additionally, since we spoke with the Planning Commission, we also reached out to expert Mangum Economics to perform a fiscal and economic contribution report. So they did reach out to the county locally to get a bunch of that information and model their projections on what the project will bring. It is a rather long study, which was included as one of the supplemental materials in the packet. I won't go into all of that, but I will bring the highlighted direct contribution. Taking the project from its current use, the current use brings the county about $13,000 over the next 40 years. The proposed project with the revenue share and also the change of classification for the property value will commit over $650,000 revenue to the county. So we did want to make sure that we highlighted that. This was also made available to the public on our website since I believe January 11th. So it has been available for the public to view also. So in conclusion, really just wanted to go over again, the updates that we did. We tightened the project premises. We've avoided prime farmland and are going to conserve the existing forest land. We've increased setbacks. We've upgraded the fencing. We've adjusted landscape buffer. We've adjusted landscape buffer, not just for the species and the amount of species, but also the location. And the access road has also been moved. We did, again, had the community meeting on February 1st. We've been putting updates on our project website, which was sent out and posted in the paper. And then we have been engaging feedback from some of the community members through the volcano.energy@innovatus.com email. And I won't bore you to go through solar fact sheets that I got up here, but I would like to highlight that the two round pictures that you see up there, those are from an existing Innovatus build sites. So you can see what it looks like when we're up and running, what we have built. We actually also just completed a project that was over 150 megawatts. And a report says that we were able to recycle over 88% of all of the construction waste during that build. So we are committed to sustainability and abiding by what I'm up here promising we'll do when we go to build it. So that will conclude our presentation. As I said, we've got our team here to answer any questions as we know there are further questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wallen.
Thank you.
All right, I believe Chris, I will open the public hearing now.
First up is Bobby LaBrake. Followed by Kenton Marsh.
She's never done this before.
Don't worry. Just your name and your magisterial district.
I'm Bonnie LeBrake,
And you're in Walker's Creek.
and in Milford Street.
Good evening.
Do you want the solar panels to be just down the road from you? No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Remember we want the farms, the cows?
Oh, yeah.
You
No.
like Luke's cows?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Luke is very helpful to us.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Martin, followed by Scarlett Martin.
Good evening.
Starlet Martin.
See you.
Um,
In your magisterial district,
pardon?
in your magisterial district, where do you live?
We live on 65 Great Road.
South,
I'm sorry.
South River.
Okay, go ahead.
Mainly I'm just here to say I'm against it. And my son, which won't come up, but I'll speak for him. I'm here to listen. I want to listen to everybody, what else they have to say, but I'm here to just support the area and say that I'm against them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Susan Showalter, followed by Heidi Woodward.
I'm Susan Showalter. I live in Walker's Creek District. My family, we own farms in all 5 districts, and we farm a lot of rented land in all 5 districts. I'm totally against this. It makes me sick to see how much farmland has left this county. And sooner or later, y'all gonna wake up and realize that you're hungry. We've got to protect the farmland. I hate to tell you, I'm 65 years old. And it makes me really upset to ride by and to say, I used to have cows here. I used to bale hay here. Farmland is leaving this county. We got to do something to protect it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heidi Woodward, followed by Ed Woodward.
Hi, I'm Heidi Woodward. I'm in Fairfield. I am against putting solar arrays on farmland. I feel that there are definitely more appropriate places like new hotels and fast food restaurants that would be better suited for this. We can't lose any more farmland. And over the last couple of years, it's, as they said, it's sickening to see the amount of land that's been taken out. Thank you.
Ed Woodward, followed by Calvert Fitzgerald.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Ed Woodward, Fairfield. I just wanted to bring up the not too distant past. The zoning commission was taking up a similar proposal for a solar array on Mackey's Lane in Fairfield. The group from New York came in, made their presentation. There was a lot of questions, citizen questions and board questions. They put off making the decision, and the company came back and answered some of those questions. And then they were given some more questions by the board. The board was focusing more narrowly on the issues that were citizens' concerns. There was a third meeting planned, and as you probably recall, it didn't take place because they didn't come back. They didn't give you an opportunity to make a decision once we got into the weeds. I'm just asking you on behalf of the citizens, the constituents, to please once again get in the weeds. This will affect us more than it will affect them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Calvert Fitzgerald, followed by Hilton Harrison.
Hello, I'm Calvert S. Fitzgerald II. Everybody calls me CS. My family owns an adjoining piece of property beside it. And the one thing we farm, and I'm all for saving our farmland, but I worry about the devaluing of land with this being as a neighbor. They were talking about the buffer along that And when you pass Beulah land, coming this way, you will see until them trees get big enough all the way up through there. The drainage basin for the biggest part of that sloping hill was across our property there. I really believe in letting people do what they want with their land, but not when it's going to devalue or destruct something around it. And at the Rafine meeting, I brought that concern up. They were explaining to me that in Northern Virginia, there's $1 million home subdivisions beside these. So I did a little research. I started calling around a few people I knew up there. With the hard, I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but the land is not freely available in the Northern Virginia area like it is here. So people, as long as it's convenient to get everything that they need, they will buy a piece of property, build a house, subdivision, whatever. And all we have to do is ride through Fairfield. My family had a sawmill right there in Fairfield forever. And look at that mess and that eyesore that we have got right there in Fairfield. I keep 11 mowed a whole lot further than I should. Because I think 11 is one of the prettiest roads going to the great city of Lexington. It's really cool for tourism. And that eyesore we got there in Fairfield is what I'm picturing here. And I don't care if we do plant 2 buffers of trees, 3 buffers of trees. It takes a while for them trees to grow. Even if they grow 9 feet a year, they got to go this way and this way. So it's going to be an eyesore for a while. I can even see this from my house. It don't matter how tall they make the trees, I'm going to be able to see it. So I'm totally against this, and I would like for y'all to think about the value of land and what it's going to do to the surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Milton Harrison, followed by Cyrus Farmer.
Yes, my name is Hilton Harrison. I live upon Great Road where the panel's going to go. So I bought my property 21 years ago. And when I walk up my back door, that's the first thing I'm going to say. I bought my property because I like the view. I like everything there. I've been doing a lot of research and everything on top of this too. And it's been proven that with solar panels, they can only store up to 20% of the energy that's coming out of the solar panels. So what happens to the rest of the energy? That's number one. Number two, it puts dirt, they say call it dirty electricity back into the ground, which I've been talking to Aspen now since the meeting in Rafine. One of the gentlemen I was talking to, he said, well, if this gets passed by y'all, then they would buy my house out because I'm right up against it. So the next thing I know, I talked to another lady and she said, well, this gentleman don't work with us no more. Then, so we're interested in leasing and trying to make you happy. I said, well, at the planning, I mean, y'all say, yes, you're going to do it. I said, I have no choice. I said, but if y'all put this stuff, these solar panels in the ground, I said, somebody's got to run the water from the county to my well. I don't want to drink the water coming from my well. I said, I mean, because it's been proven that it contaminates water. It's been proven. There's so many researchers that I've been looking at and watching. It's been proven. And it's also been proven that it brings in bad weather. It's been proven that tornadoes. It's been proven. It's been proven that it brings in worse winter times. That's been proven, which I have everything on my phone. You know, I bought this house so when the good Lord takes me, my kids are going to have a house to live in. Now they're going to put a solar panel behind my house. When I walk up my door, literally walk up my back door, they're going to be in my backyard. So I'm asking y'all, would y'all like to have that in y'all's backyard? I don't think so. And plus we're losing all this farmland. And we keep losing all this farmland. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to run out of food. What are we going to do? So I'm totally against this 100%, which I talked to Aspen, which they called me today, which is supposed to call me 3 weeks ago to set up a meeting to talk to me. But for some reason, they called me today before this meeting. And they said, we'll talk about what's going on after the meeting, this, that, and other. I said, if y'all say yes, then I said, they ain't obligated to do nothing. So I'm totally against this 100%. And I think it'd be a bad sight for Rockbridge County. I really do.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
followed by Mr. Grant. Richard Grant.
Cyrus Faulber from Fairfield. I just want to say I disagree for this to come in and she said earlier that they'd only be leaving prime farmland, but it'd be going in a hayfield. I'm pretty sure that counts as prime farmland. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Richard Grant, followed by Bryce T.
Yeah, I'm Richard Grant. I live in the South River District, and I actually farm that land. And it is prime farm ground. I don't care what they say. We was getting ready to put some of that in corn until this come around. So if it'll grow corn, it'll grow a lot of things. But anyway, you can't keep taking farmland away from the country. If you know, we've gotten, I don't know, 10 to 15 million illegal migrants, whatever you want to call them. They're eating every day. Somebody's feeding them people. So you can't keep taking food away from the land, away from farmers, expect to keep feeding people. You know what I'm saying? And you know, if we're gonna do the will of the people, what y'all are supposed to do, this thing is dead in the water. I haven't found anybody that wants this. And as far as erosion, I haven't had a single complaint about anybody saying I've had any runoff from us mowing hay or doing anything on there. I mean, we're doing a pretty good job as it is. And the deal in Fairfield is when you ride in and out of Fairfield, if you like that, I guess y'all for it. But I ain't found nobody yet that says Fairfield looks, everybody says it's a disaster. Whether you go up 11 or you go up 81, you see that. And you know, like they said, it's a lot of hills around here and a lot of people live on some of these hills. They're gonna see that. I don't care how big these trees get. So, you know, I think that it ought to be just a done deal, not be approved. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Followed by Tom Lack.
Good evening. I'm Bryce Teague, Walker Creek District. I've got some concerns around hazardous waste when it pertains to these panels. There's a variety of solar technology out there. Some of them use heavy metals in the construction of the panel, which would make them hazardous waste that they have to be disposed of during the decommission process, or they're damaged because of a weather event like a hailstorm. So my questions are, who is responsible for disposing of these things that they need to be disposed of, whether they're damaged once they're installed, they're damaged during install or on the way there? And then what's my other question? Oh yeah, it's my understanding we can't take them to the landfill here because they could contain heavy metals, and leachate from the landfill goes to the water treatment plant and would mess up their biology. So where do they go? Who's responsible for that? And then what's the timeline if there is damage to them and they're cracked open? Seems to me if they're damaged and they're in place for an extended period of time, you know, we could potentially contaminate groundwater and everything else around there. So, thank you.
Followed by Art.
No.
Tom Lackey, South River.
I'm sorry, sir. Say it again.
Tom Lackey, South River District. I live 40 yards from the fence row where they're planning on doing this. And I can hear him making hay, so I know I hear the earth movers playing around over there. And talk about hay fields not being prime farmland. Well, you are what you eat. Compare it goes for animals, same as people. And definitely against everybody that lives near me is retired. That's home all day. and the noise they're gonna make is unreal. And you can't look at that place up at Alexander's and describe it without using the word cluster. Thank you.
Evening, Art Keeney.
I'm sorry, sir. What's your name again?
Art Keeney, K-U-E-H-N, with South River. In December 2022 study prepared by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, it was noted that Moores Creek is listed as impaired due to water quality violations of the general aquatic life standard, and then excess sediment was identified as the primary stressor in Moores Creek. On March 29, 2022, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality announced a policy change regarding runoff from solar panel projects to, quote, safeguard protection of downstream waterways and prior properties, as well as to ensure consistency with EPA's Chesapeake Bay program. Under the new policy, solar panels are to be considered impervious areas when performing post-development water quality and quantity calculations. Previously, only the posts and beams that support the panels were considered impervious areas. In a memo dated April 14th, 2022, the Department of Environmental Quality encouraged early compliance with the March 29 memorandum. Based on, and I believe you have copies of this.
Yes, sir.
Based on the volcano presentation of February 1, they acknowledged that their estimates for post-development water quality and quantity calculations were based on the previous criteria, not the more stringent criteria found in the March 29 memorandum. In October 2023, the DEQ issued an implementation plan for Moores and Mills Creeks. The plan's express purpose is to reduce sediment in the water of these two creeks. And recommended best management practices for Moores Creek, which would total about $2.7 million. At a time when the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality is seeking to improve Moores Creek water quality, including new measures addressing sediment from agricultural and urban runoff, it would seem to be counterintuitive to knowingly approve a plan for construction of this solar panel facility, whose very design is based on deficient criteria with respect to post-development water runoff. Moores Creek already has a problem with excessive runoff. Additional runoff from this ill-conceived and inadequately designed solar panel facility will only exacerbate the problems and could very well nullify any improvements made as a result of new DEQ improvement plan. Lastly, on jobs, the proposal states there will be 50 job opportunities during construction. I know somebody that's worked on these projects for 5 years in Florida, Georgia, Texas, and South Dakota. In each case, the construction company came in with many of their own trained people need to prepare their site. Based on the volcanoes, February 1, only 4 long-term jobs will be here.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Chris Baum and I'm Walker's Creek. Previously, I've met some of you. I've worked with some of you before. In my past life, I was a tax attorney. I'm not a practicing lawyer right now, but I do have some experience in this. In the past, this board, members of this board, members of Rockbridge County staff have come to me and asked me to review certain situations for tax reasons, environmental reasons, or utility reasons. What I can say is I have a very limited amount of time. I will take any questions you have. I would say this project, particularly what came up at the meeting, is every red flag you could ask for. I would say walk away from this. It is not good for the county. They have not demonstrated that they are capable of handling a situation like this or this type of project. Given the time limitations, however, I want to go on to something else. There is a procedural problem here that I believe that the county needs to be aware of. Because I've worked with the county before, I'm aware the county has limited resources for litigation. It's my understanding the groups opposed to this do intend to litigate if it gets approved. Procedurally, this is what has happened. You as a governing board under Virginia law are given wide latitude, and actions you take are considered legislative actions, and courts do not want to get involved in that. The one exception to that is if you do not follow your own procedures. And if those procedures are not followed, then the decision is going to be considered arbitrary and capricious and void. And one of the things they look at is how much was the public involved during these procedures and how was the public treated versus how was the applicant treated. In this case, you had an application come in under your ordinances. That application went through the normal process and that application was denied by the commission. Since then, you've had the representatives from Volcano come in and say, we altered this, we changed that. We made these modifications. This is a materially different application than what the board or what the planning commission voted on. This board cannot vote on what they're presenting today. You don't have the authority to do it. The application was the application that was voted on by the planning commission. Board needs to vote on that. In fact, I would say rather than take up the rest of the time of all these people, it is time to simply move that and vote on it. This board cannot vote on the application, the information they just presented to you. They, in their own words, to us at the meeting and to you tonight, told you they have altered, modified, and changed the application. It is a different application. That is not what this board is here to vote on. It's here to vote on the original application, which I might add, the applicant has said that it does not meet the necessary standards for this job site. When you're talking about changes, they have changed where the reservoirs are, the size of the reservoirs, where the landscaping is, what lands are going to be used. This is a material change. This is a different application. It cannot be considered. I'll stand for any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will after we finish.
Steve Hart, Cars Creek. The question before you has two levels. First, at the local level, this is about fitting a use by exception for an agricultural property into our comprehensive plan. One relevant point is that each acre of pasture or grazing land produces about $400 per acre for the local agricultural economy. Removing agricultural land removes this money. This solar field, if approved, combined with the others already approved, removes about 200 acres, therefore $800,000 from our agricultural economy. This impacts not only farmers, but also all of our businesses like the tire store, the tractor store, the repair store, the feed store, and everything else. Lose too many farms, we start to lose these businesses. When that happens, the gradual decline in agriculture becomes a death spiral. When our agricultural vistas are converted to solar power plants, our tourist economy degrades. You should also read the local papers from around the country with the problems in financing groundwater surface runoff and erosion that have happened on similar construction. Second, the Commonwealth of Virginia, at the Commonwealth level, all county boards of supervisors have been co-opted without their permission into participating in the comprehensive plan to transform the Virginia electrical infrastructure. I didn't make this up. It's exactly what the Virginia Clean Economy Act calls for. You are being asked to approve the siting of multiple solar electrical generation facilities without being told the total number of facilities required, the transmission and distribution systems required, the storage facilities required, the impact of the growth of data centers. This is not your fault. No one knows these answers. I've read the estimate from the National Renewable Energy Lab. They do not know. I recently spoke with an electrical engineering professor at Virginia Tech and asked him if these types of estimates exist. He said they did not, and they are unlikely to because they're not the kind of research that anyone funds. In short, we have no idea where we're actually going. Starting on a trip without a destination, without a map, without knowing the cost, without knowing how much fuel is currently in the tank is a guaranteed disaster. You and your fellow boards of supervisors are the last legislative body with the ability to say, no, we won't start down this road until we know where we're going. No, we will not wreck our agricultural lands, our communities, and our local economies for the whims of urban legislators. No, we will not become an energy colony for urban data centers. No, we will not be left holding the bag and cleaning up the mess when these grand schemes fail. Oh, by the way, construction inflation is between 3% and 4%, averaging 3.7 over the last 30 years. If you get a bond with a 2% escalator, we're not looking good in 40 years.
Susan Coleman, first one, followed by Judy Clark.
My name is Susan Coleman Crosshorn. I live in South River District. I own the property that abuts Highway 11 and Moore's Trail on Steels Fort Road. I've lived there for 38 years now. My husband and I have three concerns, two of which have already been eloquently addressed. One has to do with the impact of this project on Moores Creek, which runs down the back of our property, across 11, down Boyd Grant Trail, onto our farm, which is about 2 miles down the road that way. The impact on that creek, as I understand it, can be considerable as a result of this project. We are against that. The second major concern is the loss of farmland in this part of the county. No one can be happy about that. We have a third concern, however, that has not been raised this evening to date. And that is the amount of traffic that has been increasing regularly on Steels Fort Road and Moores Trail. Every time there is an incident on I-81, the traffic spills over onto Steels Fort Road and comes down to 11 and can tie up 11 and Steels Fort Road for hours and hours, any time of the day or night. And this has been increasing. It has also been increasing on Moores Trail with projects that have taken place on the Drawbon property once Bobby Bergstresser bought it and began some projects in there and so forth. We are very, very concerned about the impact of this project on traffic on Steels Fort Road, Moores Trail, how it's going to affect life of the people who live in this particular area. And we don't see that as anything good with all of these trucks and even once the project were to be complete, it must be maintained. And Moores Trail, if you have ever seen it, is a very small road. And I'm not one who's really looking forward to giving up any more of my property to widen that road for a project such as this. So for those reasons, my husband and I are against this project.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Judy Clark from South River District. There are so many layers of detriment or issues with the Volcano Energy Solar Project. It will have lasting and permanent effects on the community environment. Harm is imminent. Our well water is of greatest concern for my family and this community. We live in a karst region that runs along the western region of Virginia. Rockbridge County is included. Several karst or sinkholes are on this property site. One of several is active and growing. It's important to note that the proposal, the solar arrays on the proposal and the retention pond are over the sinkhole or in the aquifer area. According to the Virginia Department of Energy official website, under the sinkhole and karst section, sinkholes, quote, sinkholes provide a pathway for surface water to directly enter the groundwater and aquifers. Potential for pollution is particularly high. Poor understanding of karst terrain has led to land practices that pose significant economic and environmental impacts to households and communities. Diverting surface water, pumping groundwater, constructing reservoirs can all contribute to sinkhole formation. The current and potential new sinkholes over and around this site feeds our wells. Over 20 residents surround the site and as many more located in the community. According to recent Page County engineering reports citing a solar project's issues, quote, "These wells within 10 miles of the site should be located because they very well could be at risk," unquote. Page County is included in the same karst region of Virginia as Rockbridge. Installation of the site arrays, specifically the pilings, digging of the ditches for electrical cords, installing roads, equipment pads, and equipment used will have the aquifer exposed. The pounding of the steel pilings. Oh, gotta turn my volume up here. That's the steel pilings, wind driven. Will cause the ground vibrations in the limestone ledges that run through the site, both seen and underground.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
I ask you not to consider to vote for this project.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Moore, and I'm from Walker's Creek. Brandy, I'm going to start mine so I can kind of whiz through this really fast. I'm going to go really fast because I have a lot to say. When you think of Rockbridge County, what do you think of? Look at these pictures on the wall. Do you see any historic pictures? I mean, Wade's Mill is the oldest operating mill around. It's still operating. That's historic. That's history of Rockbridge County. Look at our county medallion. It's beautiful. Natural Bridge, the Natural Bridge Hotel. That's historic. That's history. When you talk about Rockbridge County, you know Stonewall Jackson, Washington and Lee, Robert E. Lee, VMI, Historic Lexington, Historic Brownsburg, carriage rides, museums with our local history, Wade's Mill Vineyards, farmers markets, community markets, cattle, cheese. We have farmers making cheese. We have goat cheese. We have historic log cabin restorations. That's what Rockbridge County is. And you know what else Rockbridge County is? All those local things contribute to local RARO, the PTO, private schools, Girl Scouts. If I were to ask the people in this room right here, right now, how many people have supported my children? How many boxes of Girl Scout cookies? If you bought a box of Girl Scout cookies for my children, to stand up. If you supported my children at their schools, stand up. You know who'd be standing? The farmers that have been here for 65 years. Sorry, Miss Sue. The farmers over here who, you know, tried to die on us and can't kill him. He comes back and is still farming and driving vehicles. Those are the people that are supporting local. It is not these large corporations. I'm on the PTO. I'm on the Castle Christian School where we go around trying to raise money. And I bring in my cute little paper and I say, hey, I'm here. Will you support us? Yeah, hand in the paper and come back another day. Guess what? Those large corporations don't come back another day. Who comes back the next day? All these small little mom and pop shops, you know, they're the ones supporting Rockbridge County. This isn't going to support our energy here. This is going elsewhere. You know, I have 4 children. My company is Heritage Woodwork, Heritage Millwork and Cabinetry. We are heritage. Rockbridge County is heritage. This isn't heritage. This is taking away from the farms that feed our children. I don't want to have to worry about feeding my children. I need these farmers way too much, and I need their support because I know when it comes looking, there's no buzzer you can click in to see if these solar panel people are going to buy a box of Girl Scout cookies because there's going to be nobody there to be found. You know, they're given a couple of jobs for a couple of minutes and then they're gone. So I got a lot more, but that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Oh, and in case you didn't get it, I'm opposed.
Take out the handwriting, but here's Elijah Durant. Durant, close the last one up. And that is going to be followed by Luke Grant.
Elijah drew it, and I'd just like to say I'm opposed to it. I guess that's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Luke Grant followed by Karen Mumbuki.
I'm Luke Grant. I was up here at the planning commission. I really don't want to be here. I'm nervous in front of all these
Hey,
people.
Take your time. Take your time.
But I'll pretty much tell you, like I told them last time, I'm one of the younger farmers in the area. What's the next one's going to do? I got a nephew who's just born. What's he going to do? God willing, he wants to do something other than push a button when he's 16 years old. Hopefully I can teach him how to drive a tractor. We don't have any acres left. We don't have nothing. I mean, think about it. It's putting me out of a job. It's putting my dad out of a job. It's putting health corporations in Lexington out of a job to come fertilize it. Putting Raleigh Trucking out of a job for fertilizer, for chicken litter I get. And it's putting Stanton Union Stockyard out of a job because I'm not going to be able to keep as many cows as I could. That's a lot of hay, a whole lot of hay. 70 acres is a lot of ground. You don't just go down go down the road and get another 70-acre piece of ground to make hay on, especially not in Rockbridge County. We got rocks and hills and mountains and stuff to deal with, but that's what makes it Rockbridge County. That's why we got to protect what we do have. But that's about all I got to say. I'm against it. This is ridiculous. We shouldn't even have to be here. This should not be a thought. I don't know how anybody could want to support solar systems. I don't have anything against solar panels, but it's a disgrace to agriculture to sit there and call them things solar farms, because it's not a farm. They can put these things on buildings and everywhere else. If you want to use it for your house, cool, get that. But when you start taking up acres, man, it's going to hurt somebody in the future. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Hello. My name is Karen Mumju. I'm from Lexington, east side of Lexington, east of 81. My husband and I just moved here a few years ago, and I've lived all over the country growing up. Colorado, some of the most beautiful places. Little over 10 years ago, we were driving south on 81, and I think it was through Fairfield, and I thought, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And now when I look there, my heart breaks. Just breaks. It's just such a horrible thing that happened. That was allowed to happen. They're putting in that solar farm. So many people that we've met here have said we came here too because of just the beauty, the natural. Everybody talks about the natural beauty here. So I'm opposed. I know it's a little bit different than what everybody's talking about. The loss of farmland, I totally agree with that too. All of it is just what makes this area so charming, that made us actually move here. We didn't even know anyone. We just moved here because it was so great. But we hope that you oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't put your last name, I can't read it, but Route 11 Fairfield is the district. That's what signed up. Al.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name's Al Kochik. I live on Route 11 in Fairfield next to the nursing home, Beulah Lane. It seems like all the development is going in the north end of the county. You have a solar farm 2 miles down the road on 40 acres. You have another one you're going to put in here. I'm concerned about this Chesapeake watershed and the brook that goes down to South River. In addition, it's kind of like a electric car situation. Called the fire department, can't put out the fire. You're going to need a bigger landfill with all these solar farms, because you're going to fill up your landfill with these Chinese panels. They don't last forever, and these companies turn around and sell everything over, and then they go bankrupt, and the county will be left looking for a new landfill for all these solar panels. It seems like they're just too close together. It seems all the truck stops, the air pollution, the noise, and the solar farms are all going in the north end of the county. I don't believe they should be going in any part of the county, but that's just me. It's a personal thing. But I believe that agriculture is going to be hurt by this. And I believe the pollution in the watershed comes down to it. It's been demonstrated. But I believe this is like an electric car situation. And you're going to be, those solar panels are going to be left behind eventually. And they're all going to wind up in a landfill and it'll fill that up in no time. I think it's too many pieces of agriculture disappearing. And I think we need the agriculture. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Has everyone signed up at this time, as far as physically signing up?
Mr. Suter, how about online?
No one has their hand raised. If anybody's online and would like to speak, I'd ask you to hit the raise your hand button. See none.
Is anyone out there that did not sign up and would like to speak? Sir, would you like to come up? I think it'll be good. Fine. Yeah. Yes, sir. Your name?
Robert Moore, and I live in South River District and I own the adjoining farm to the west.
Yes, sir.
Of the one we're talking about. And these are my neighbors. Are we gonna let this thing come and ruin the quality of life that they have? Look at Texas right now. It's burning up. And all the cattle are dying. What are we gonna eat if we don't keep farmland here and raise cattle on it and cut the hay? And the quality of life for my neighbors, I feel sorry. I don't live down there. My daughter does, and these people do. I live right out here on Lib, but they're still my neighbors. Thank you, and I'm proud of them.
Thank you, sir. There was one person. Yes. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Sarah Clark. I'm South River District. I'm completely opposed to this because this is my home. I'm a Moore. This is where I grew up. I rode my horses in those fields. My daughter gets to go through those fields, and I don't want them destroyed because of a solar company that just wants to come in here and make profit off of us. My Uncle Will bought those farms with everything he had and worked for those places. And I don't want to see his legacy destroyed for this. Not for somebody that doesn't really care about that land. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Sure.
Board members, my name's Timothy Clark. I'm the adjacent landowner to the entrance of the proposed solar site. I've kind of sat and looked at my notes and listened to everybody here, and this thing boils down to the land can't speak for itself, but we can. I want to give you a little data about this property. The Volcano Energy Special Exemption Permit application states on page 8 that it abides by the county's comprehensive plan strategy stating that agricultural soils of the highest quality should be preserved as an important natural resource, and states that the soils of the proposed site are identified as being moderately productive. The application's assertion that the site contains only moderately productive soils stands in stark contrast to the National Cooperative Soil Survey report, which shows that this site has the potential for exceptional agricultural yield. Right now, there's some in hay fields and some in soybean production. The current area that is in hayfields has been looked at by the current farmers of going into corn until this proposed solar project went in. They held off on that to see what happens. The potential's there, but we may not be able to produce corn on it. The proposed 46-acre site will not be on prime farmland. It will be placed on farmland designated as farmland of statewide importance, which has potential per acre crop yields of 170 bushels of corn and 4.5 to 6 tons of alfalfa hay. In comparison, prime farmland has a potential per acre yield of 200 bushels of corn and 6 tons of alfalfa hay. Virginia Cooperative Extension form that I have here that has looked at this land, and I quote on here, relative to an average farm in Rockbridge County of similar size, this farm site has exceptional agricultural productivity potential. Based on that, as this farm is stripped, this is a form of strip mining and will permanently destroy it. To turn this farm into a solar field would not even be up for consideration by the Board of Supervisors, or should not be, because this is not in the best interest of our county's comprehensive strategy of maintaining and preserving agriculture soils of the highest quality. I hope that you would vote no, as in our planning commission did in the past. Thank you.
Thank you,
for the
sir.
opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ella Clark, from South River District, and I have a rhetorical question for you. What are the future generations going to do about this? I'm 12, and I don't want to deal with this when the solar panels they're run out of power or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm shaking. I don't want to be up here.
You take your
But,
time.
I don't approve of this, so that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. All right. Everybody had their opportunity. Is there anyone else? Okay, with that, my plan is I would like to ask, people brought up things that I do believe need to be addressed. Mr. Sladen, would you like to do that? Should we ask the applicant to do that? How would you like to proceed?
I think in some cases, staff is better addressed to
Let-
answer questions.
Let's start there.
You need to close public hearing first.
So I'm going to close the public hearing. And the first question, can we address maybe the legal issue that Mr. Baum, is that correct? Brought up.
Yes, as stated in the presentation, staff presentation, there has been some changes made since the October 11th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Changes to development include a reduction of the proposed fence area, increased landscaping, shifting of the proposed access way from Clark lot and the Fitzgerald track. These changes were deemed not to be material changes. And so with that being said, I understand the term material changes. I understand the process and procedures. If this was drastically shifted to one side of the property that was not considered originally, or essentially other non-nominal changes, then yes, this would have been put back to the Planning Commission. In my opinion, as the zoning administrator, these were not material changes. And if you'd like, I can show you a little bit more in detail on that one.
No, I think we're fine. All right. We had many questions about water. Should we address those?
Well, I mean, I will say I'm unaware, staff is unaware of any studies that confirm the ground solar panels pollute the groundwater nor produce hazardous weather events. With that being said, we did look at the karst topography as far as some speakers spoke about the karst topography, and we have two sinkhole layers associated with the GIS, if you will. So we define the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations define sinkholes as shown on a USGS quad map. That's a 1983 quad map. There are no, per definition, there are no sinkholes on the property per our definition of the land development regulations. With that being said, the second layer that we utilize is the Departments of Mines and Minerals and Energy. They have produced a sinkhole layer that in most cases shows more sinkholes than the USGS quad map shows. And also that's one of the very first thing we as staff checks that particular layer, and that layer I can confirm that it does not show a sinkhole, presence of a sinkhole. With that being said, I'm, with utilizing those tools we have, let's put it that way.
Sure, absolutely.
So
Jump in.
you've been on the property and you've looked over. And-
Yes.
And there's no sinkholes there.
I'm unaware if there's sinkholes or not. There was one area that we looked at that I didn't closely inspect. It could be a depression. I'm not sure if that depression has an outlet or not.
Ma'am, excuse me, the public hearing is closed.
And again, that's utilizing the two resources we look at a preliminary planning stage.
Gentlemen, jump in if you have questions to ask as I go over these. But in terms of what the panels are made of, manufactured, we have controls over what that is. So that has to be stipulated, correct?
It doesn't have to be stipulated. So to back up a little bit, every zoning district, regardless if it's agricultural transitional, are the two zoning districts we're dealing with here. Even an industrial zoning district, there's a term permitted uses or by right uses and uses by special exception. Obviously, we're going through a use by special exception in the agricultural A2 and the AT zoning district. With that being said, the Board of Supervisors does have the ability to set conditions associated with the property. Unlike proffers, those conditions don't have to be voluntary and they don't have to be voluntary offered nor agreed upon. They do have to be solid, reasonable, and associated with the use of land. So as you know, we do have an ordinance to approve and an ordinance to deny on board docs available to the general public. Part of the conditions, one of the conditions as part of the condition to approve, or the ordinance to approve, I should say, does state the panel composition and specification. It does preclude some panels, such as thin film panels that have, I believe, deemed to be hazardous. The DEQ is obviously the authority, the authority on whether it's considered hazardous material or not. Some quotes from the actual website. There are numerous types and designs of solar panels and circulations, making a one size fits all hazardous waste determination difficult. So it does say that there are some panels that are landfillable. Obviously, if they're deemed to be hazardous material, they would not be landfillable.
All right.
But we, of course, would lean on the DEQ for that determination. And also to clarify, going back to there was a statement made that the Planning Commission denied the application. Obviously, as you know, for general public's benefit, the Planning Commission has an advisory role with special exceptions and rezoning, so they would be making a recommendation to the supervisors. And that is correct. The Planning Commission has recommended denial of this project.
Mm-hmm. And am I correct? Someplace in here said the runoff would be net. They didn't use the word net zero. They used a different, that the runoff, the stormwater management plan would create a situation where there was no net runoff. Is that not correct?
I would lean towards the applicant to address that.
Ms. Wallen, okay.
Yeah, good evening. Sean Blow with Kimley Hornian. As far as the stormwater and the calculations we have to do, what we do is we look at sort of the ground cover and the topography that's there today on the project. And we run a series of calculations to model how much water basically would leave the project today in certain rain events that DEQ requires us to model.
You mean before the panels?
Yep.
Yes.
As it is today. So meadow condition of rolling hills with certain discharge points. We model the flow at every discharge point that leaves our project. And each of those discharge points, when we build our facility and we're doing the modeling, showing what it would look like constructed, we have to reduce the flows to each of those discharge points. So it's not like we can move water around or anything else. The total project will reduce the water leaving the project today. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No problem. And if you don't mind, I may just jump in a little bit on the sinkhole discussion, just as I have the mic. We did do a geotechnical study. So we had a geotechnical engineer go out to the site and review the site if there's any sinkholes within the project area. And based on their review, there's no sinkholes within the project area at this time.
Ma'am, it is closed. Thank you.
I was there, I've been there twice, the site. I was there this morning. And I'm just a dumb old country boy, but I'll be damned if I don't think I saw a sinkhole.
So there may be depressions out there, but there is a technical term for depressions that are out there.
I'm just a country boy. To me, it's a sinkhole. Yeah.
I mean, sinkholes are, to the points that were brought up about groundwater, classified sinkholes on projects are highly regulated by DEQ because it sort of short circuits down to the aquifer, right? And so if there are any on site, if we find any, we can't just cover it up and move on. Those are highly regulated features. And if we do find one, we have to handle it in a way that would require additional permitting. So obviously the geotechnical studies are limited. They're not poking holes in every foot and looking at that, but a professional did go out there and review that. So yeah. But either way, if there is a sinkhole, we would likely avoid it and drain water around it. We've had those on other projects where they are either known up front or they're uncovered during construction. And the best way for us to deal with those is to avoid it and to divert water around it so we don't have the risk of contaminating any groundwater with sediment. So.
No, it's oh, I'm sorry. Yes, if it's about the water, yes.
I just wanted to state that of the geotechnical study, it was preliminary. We did it throughout the site. However, there will be a follow-up geotechnical study with our racking manufacturer that will go in depth a lot more. We did try to kind of evenly distribute the preliminary testing, but if there is a sinkhole out there, it will definitely be found during our investigations with the racking manufacturer.
And if I may expand on that comment as well, and I'll share my screen for a second. One thing in addition, and I'm gonna pull up the plan as well. One thing in addition, oh, that's the prime farmland. Get back to the sinkhole. I would like to address the prime farmland question. I believe based on my observations on site that this, and everyone in the room obviously knows it way better, more detailed than myself, but I believe this would be the area that we're talking about as far as a sinkhole, as far as what appears to be a sinkhole on site, if you will.
Not the one I'm talking about.
That's not the one?
No, sir.
Could you, is it this one here? I mean, there's trees that, okay, so if you could guide me, Mr. Day, Supervisor Day, on which one you're referring to get everyone oriented. This is Moore's Trail, Clark House is here. This is the Fitzgerald property here, proposed access coming along here. This is one tree feature, and essentially the only other tree feature associated with it is located here. Moving on, another issue that staff looks at as a preliminary preliminary suggestions, if you will, is not only the sinkhole layer to identify any karst topography, but we also obviously have a discussion on prime farmland. Mr. Stanley had, Tom Stanley, the extension agent for the county, had written a letter. I apologize. I failed to put that in the package that was available online. I did email that to the individuals of the supervisors, and it's available publicly if anyone would like it. This is the map that was associated with Mr. Stanley's letter. The green areas shown in 61B, located on the essentially north side of the creek, if you will, and the south side of the creek here, are considered prime farmland. And then 22B associated with it is associated with prime farmland. And it is a definition of and I shared it with y'all today, a very detailed definition of what prime farmland is. With that being said, these these soil type lines are verbatim on the ones that were just shown here. You can see these unique features. Apologize. And the solar array itself is out of what is considered prime farmland for the soil types, solely based on the soil types.
There was a question, Mr. Harrison asked a question about dirty electric, and only 20% of the panels was. Did you want to address any of that?
I am uncertain. I'm unfamiliar with that term.
Ms. Wallen, anything?
I will say, I am from the development department. We do have, through operating and maintenance, this is closely monitored to the point where we can tell you if one panel is even shaded. We do design to optimize that we get the maximum of the solar benefit. As far as this dirty electricity or the 20%, this has never been anything that's come up in our modeling or our engineering. I don't really know what else to say on that, but that we do monitor this to make sure that we do meet certain standards, which we also have to sign agreements with the utility to make sure that we maintain those so that they can maintain the reliability and steady on the grid.
Okay, can you also address the questions on hazardous waste and what your panels are made of, what they will be made of, how inert they are, that
So
sort of thing?
we have, and forgive me, I never say it correctly. The type of panels that we are using are silicon-based, yeah.
Okay.
The majority of these panels are glass. There is some wood and some copper, not wood, metal and some copper also included. Sean could probably speak to some of the components a little better than I can. And we do have studies available that have not shown any toxicity or leaching from the panels. And then again, we have committed to not use the kind of highly disregarded thin film cadmium telluride panels. I will also say we did identify, Innovatus and Aspen. One of our biggest policies in our companies are for decarbonization and sustainability. We do have a commitment to enter our projects into recycling programs and to maintain any type of hazardous waste or any waste for that matter. We have already been in talks with a recycling program that is within 100 miles of here, so that when we do get through zoning and get to the operating and maintenance contracts, that we can loop them into this.
Thank you, Ms. Wallen. Gentlemen, any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, Madam Chair. Typically I try to champion property owner rights and their ability to do what they want to on their property. They're the ones paying the taxes. However, having looked at this project and listened to the concerns over the project, it's my opinion that this project adversely impacts the character of the neighborhood, the roads, the traffic, and the budding properties. So I'm not sure why we would approve it.
I've already told you, I've visited this property twice. And I've always felt, being elected, that I was to serve the people. I work for them. There's been at least 24 people that have spoken here tonight. I don't think I've heard of one speak in favor of it. I would hate to think that I lived within sight anywhere from Ridge Road to Beulah Land, knowing that this was going to go in, because it will affect property values. I had a gentleman that called me that's looking at your property. And he told me, he said, if that goes in, I would dare buy it. You can't tell me that this won't affect property values and the neighborhood. Therefore, I'm against it.
Well, just a few words. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Well, it's always good to have a meeting with other people here than just ourselves. I listened to everything that was said tonight. And the only thing I disagree with, now hear me out before you start booing, and you don't have to clap, is that we are eliminating farmlands. These 5 people we all have to take responsibility for that, because as farmers get older and they have to eat, they have to generate an income. So we as a community have to make sure we figure out a way where we're not forcing these people into using their farmlands for other purposes. So all of us are responsible for that. And we take each site individually and we learn from each decision. But there have been many meetings where the neighbors came out and supported the site because they wanted to help the farmer. So think about that in the future. And don't be looking at the supervisors and saying, you guys have taken farmlands away from you. We make decisions based on a number of factors, but we all have that responsibility to figure out what we can do in the future so that farmers can eventually retire and hopefully have someone to take over their land and continue the trade. I agree with Mr. McDaniel. I just think in this case, it would have an adverse effect on the community.
I don't have any comments. I'm ready to voice my opinion when we vote.
Just to say a few words about similar to Mr. Lyons, we support farming in a lot of ways. And one is going to be our land use tax, right? We support so that a lower tax rate for owners so that they lease property and that translates to a much lower lease than if we did not. So we absolutely support farming in that sense. And we also support farming by our dedication not to tax farming equipment. Very important to encourage people to farm. But we can't, that's the extent of it. And there's nothing else that we can do on that. We are not taking away when it's not about farming in this project to me. It's about this project or something else. That in some cases, the 40 acres, the 60 acres means that the other property is in farming. And for me, and this is me, and I live next to substantial property that used to be in an old dairy. And as I pulled out this couple weeks, I've been looking at that property and I admire that property. It's beautiful. And I think to myself, how would I feel if 40 acres of that property, were covered in solar panels? So I am dedicated to doing what I would do to myself. I just want you to know you don't have to boo me, but for me, having a project, there's no question that solar installations are hard, they're noisy, they got a lot of people running around. But after they're done, you have no noise, and I am very careful about water, very careful about water. In many ways, the water, you could say that certainly compared to maybe farming, there's nothing, all land use hurts water. We've got to mitigate that, right? So for me, that it's possible that you would have a better, I am very impressed with this company's, to date, I think this is the best company so far in terms of their plans and their thoroughness. I understand how the scary aspect of having it, but for me, I'd take this to 20, 40 houses any day of the week. No noise, no traffic after the project's done. That's me. I hear you all. Absolutely hear you all. But there are many development things coming down the pipeline. And again, we can't make people farm. We can't keep people in farming. We can just encourage that. And this is the only use of farmland that 30 years from now, or whenever the project's complete, 25 to 40 years, you at least have the option of farming again. There's not one other alternate use, not one, you look at these big projects that are going up. As soon as it hits residential, as soon as it hits other, no more farmland. So nope, no, ma'am. Sorry. So those are my comments. Miss Moore, I have asked you to be quiet, please. So those are my comments, and I'm done.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we deny the special exception permit.
I'll second.
Hold on, let me get all right. Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and I vote no. And there we go. It's a wrap. Thank you all for coming. Yes, I will. Sorry. The motion to approve was denied.
The motion to deny was approved.
I'm sorry. The motion to deny was approved. Will you tell Ms. Moore? Sorry. I apologize. Can we wait a minute?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, we still have a meeting. We got other things. If you could make your way out the door there, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I take lousy pictures. That's my sinkholes. I took this one. I took it here because I wanted to have a little silent. I was give it perspective.
Anyway, we can talk about that later, but thanks for the conversation.
And,
It's okay. I know you've got so much heart, and it's all coming out, and that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, we're getting ready to start a meeting, but please send me an email.
we get some tax on. Yeah, on our side, yeah.
He's not.
Okay. Who's he with? Your district? Oh, good.
All right, folks. We will move on.
Oh, yeah.
And now you get me. It's just like, gentlemen, we will move on. to the application for zoning text amendments to modify sections 302. Mr. Sladen.
Yes, bear with me here. I would like to share my screen. We can't
shut that one.
No, I disagree. You can, but we don't like to here. Yes, because that's where I got the. Can I go? If it, that's my thing.
All right. This is a public hearing for a zoning text amendment. At the December 12th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed several zoning text amendment to include car washes in the business zone. No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Again, at the December 12th, 2023 meeting, the Planning Commission talked about several zoning text amendments, including a car wash, providing clarifications for a car wash in a business district. At January 10th, 2024 meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed some definitions and some other information pertaining to them and instructed staff to take it to a public hearing at their February 14th, 2024 meeting. At that case, and this is exactly up on the screen here, we have defined, essentially taken many definitions throughout the Commonwealth and combined them into one, modified them into one that we felt comfortable with presenting to the Planning Commission and taking to public hearing, obviously. So the zoning text amendments includes adding the definition of car wash per draft definition of 302.35A, and then providing them as a permitted use, a by right use in the general business zoning district B1 under 605.02-48. With that, here to, obviously this includes a public hearing, but here to answer any questions the board may have or the public.
Gentlemen? I guess we will open the public hearing.
There is no one signed up to speak
online.
If anyone's online wishes to speak on this public hearing, if you could just raise your hand, please. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no one, then I will close the public hearing. Is there any board discussion?
I don't have any discussion, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any board comments or committee updates?
I don't want to use any more dance time, so I'm gonna not have anything tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
No, you're
Appreciate
very
that.
quiet. You've got lots of time. Do you have anything? All right. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Hey, first.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day. And the chair votes yes.
Thanks for that.
Thank you all.